What's up? Welcome in A to Z Sports on a Friday. Going to have a great show to send you guys to the weekend today. Got our guy Jack Gentry in for Zach Bingham. Zach has headed to the state of Texas to fake cowboy at his family ranch. So Zach will be out today. But also after today, Zach and I will take 2 weeks off from the show, get our little summer hiatus in. Buck Rising will be filling in during 8 a.m. slot for the morning show the next couple of weeks after his vacation that he's been on. So, Jack, happy to have you along. We're going to talk about the Titans today. Jack, you've got 3 Titans in 2020 who have to take the next step. Then we'll talk about A.J. Brown and a potential sophomore slump or sophomore superstar. And because it is Friday, we'll send everybody to the weekend with Ain't That Good News. I think there's been a lot of good news as of late when it comes to sports. The NFL had some good news yesterday. We'll touch on that as well. So, Jack, what's up, man? Welcome in.
Hey, happy to be here. Guys, while you're piling in, don't forget to share the show. I know we got people on Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitch, YouTube. Share the show, grow the conversation. The more people in here, the better. The more people in here that disagree with Austin, the better, because that means you're on my side. And, of course, my side's always the right side.
Yes, that's maybe so.
You know this.
Yeah, maybe so. All right, let's get it going officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry, in for Zach Bingham of the Tighten Up podcast. And make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at A to Z Sports, Facebook at A to Z Sports Nashville. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they truly do make it all happen for us and for you guys. TennesseeTickets.com is where to go. TennesseeTickets.com to save money by using code Titans20 on your Titans tickets. And also, they will refund your money at TennesseeTickets.com if fans cannot get in the game. Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness. We were in Green Hills yesterday. Mandu.com. Your first workout is absolutely free, so check them out. And then Tucker Agency, save 20% on average for your personal insurance by going to TuckerTN.com. And Calvin and Subtle for your new hardwood floors. CalvinandSubtle.com is where to go. Jack, a lot of people might not know you who watch this show because this is your first time on the show. Shrike pops up and says, hey, that's not Donnie Nicky. No, that's Jack Gentry of the A to Z Sports Tighten Up podcast that you and Austin Huff do every week, every Wednesday morning when that comes out. Before we dive into Titans discussion and some NFL good news, tell the people about yourself, kind of who you are, and how you are not Zach Bingham.
I'm not Zach Bingham. I'm definitely not Zach Bingham. I grew up in Nashville, was a Titans fan from the start, did my college at Ole Miss. Now I'm doing the Tighten Up podcast with A to Z. I cover Vanderbilt basketball and the Grizzlies as well. And that's kind of the brief description of myself. I'm back in Nashville, having fun. I know times have been better, but we're here and we're happy.
Yeah, exactly. So happy to have Jack along. The Tighten Up podcast, definitely check that out. If you're not listening to the Tighten Up podcast yet, do it because it's funny. Huff and Jack are really entertaining. We had another Zach with Zach Reagan early on, so we had to find another Austin. So Austin Huff has completed the doppelganger of Austin and Zach's here with A to Z. So Jack, there was some good news before we completely dive into your 3 Titans to take the next step. Adam Schefter yesterday said that an NFL exec says the training camp is on schedule to start on time in late July. We'll get to good news at the end of the show, but that's fantastic news. Got to make you feel good about the NFL.
Oh, big time. And you'd have to think that Roger Goodell and his group of henchmen have thought through just about every scenario possible in terms of getting the season started and back to normal. Well, this is a precaution that's very necessary in taking 6 to 8 rows, not a huge sacrifice. An industry that is very money hungry is going to make sure that they do everything possible to be making that money that they were supposed to be making prior to the whole COVID situation.
Yeah, I agree. And that made me happy because I think we all as a company or really as a society trying to plan for football season, knowing that there's a chance that things will start on time makes everybody feel better. Bobby Dingman says, I bet there will be less yelling on the show. You're probably right. Louis says, cool, Vandy basketball. I like Jack already. That's good that you've got a couple guys in your corner.
There we go.
They're not even including the Titans. So, Jack, you've got 3 Titans players who must take the next step in the year 2020, in the season 2020. Let's get number 1 on your list here?
All right, number one, Nate Davis. He has to improve. He has to grow up very quickly. Maybe unfair to him, doesn't matter. You have a rookie right tackle. I know Dennis Kelly will probably start the first month of the season there, but you have a rookie right tackle going to be playing alongside of you. It's your second year. You have a running back in Derrick Henry who does not run outside. He runs up and down, north and south, up the middle. And so having Nate Davis perform much better than last year, he developed well towards the end of the season. He looked good. But to have that for the whole season is so, so crucial for this team in order to continue Derrick Henry's momentum, in order to create the balance this offense needs. In the pass rush as well, he has to improve. He does. He allowed 7 sacks last year, a few penalties, only one holding penalty, not bad. But we, as Titans fans, you need a Nate Davis that is reliable, consistent, and you can count on when it matters because the best player on that offense is right behind you. It's Derrick Henry. And he's coming straight down the middle every time. The defense knows it. Everyone in the stadium knows it. You just he has to grow up quickly. He does.
Yeah, and Strike says as long as Jamil Douglas isn't there, he's happy. The Jamil Douglas experience did not last very long. And that's the thing with Nate Davis is he was a third-round pick out of Charlotte who missed the entire training camp basically with we don't even know what he was hurt with. We were first told that it was heat exhaustion, but it's not heat exhaustion. It was something to deal with an injury to his body. So he missed the first month of the year after missing training camp, has to come in and step in because Jamil Douglas was awful. Zach Goodman, I feel like we're going to get a lot of these questions. Says, who's the new guy? That is Jack Gentry, the Tighten Up Podcast. Definitely need to check out the Tighten Up Podcast, and Jack will talk more about that throughout the show. So Jack's top 3 guys that must take it at the next step for the Titans in 2020. First is Nate Davis. And I think when you look at Nate Davis, Lawan talked about on Bussin' with the Boys of how much he improved over the season, but still you found a couple plays every game where Nate Davis got blown the F up, and it was bad. It was either resulting in Derrick Henry getting stopped for like a loss on the play, or Dion Lewis getting sacrificed to the football gods if he was in there, or Ryan Tannehill having to make a bad decision or a quick decision or getting sacked. So Nate Davis, while his upside is pretty high, he's got to be more consistent and not have those awful plays.
Yeah, in the plays that'll set you back, you can't have a 3-yard loss on second down. You just can't have that happen. And I think Nate Davis, he has the most pressure on him to improve from last year than anyone else on the roster. Just simply because of his surrounding. He lost Jack Conklin, his right tackle. Jack Conklin was always steady. You could trust him. You could rely on him. But now it's kind of an unknown position on that right tackle. The Titans know they can run left, right? They know they can trust Roger Saffold and Taylor Lewan to do their jobs. What you don't know is what you're going to get out of the right side of the offensive line. And you can't have defenses just mixing and matching, putting their best pass rushers, their best run blocker or run stoppers on the right side of the line because, I mean, you need to have some stabilization across that front. You just do. And I think Nate Davis, it's a very important role on this Titans team for him to step up.
Yeah, and even like when you talk about running left, like a super important part of running left is what the backside guard can do. Like, can the backside guard get across his man's face, then get to the linebacker? So now Derrick Henry has a cutback hole. So I think Nate Davis is definitely a good one. Really, Nate Davis was a reason why I thought the Titans should not have drafted a tackle that high to play right away because I don't think Nate Davis next to whoever they drafted in the first round at tackle would have been a good option, but at least Dennis Kelly is there for a stopgap for the time being. So, Jack, Nate Davis, number 1. Who is number 2?
Rashaan Evans is number 2. Blade. He's in the middle of that Titans defense. He was a first-round draft pick. He hasn't really had first-round production. He was one of the best run-stopping linebackers in college football. Well, now it's his time. It's his time to step up. And he wreaked havoc at Alabama in the backfield on the quarterback. Quarterback pressures was a big stat for him. We haven't seen that much out of him as a Titan. And this year he's been in this defense. He's been in this system for a couple years now. It's time for him to take the next step and grow and be a guy that Jayon Brown can look right next to and say, that guy's got me. He's going to do his job. I don't have to go over and beyond of my job tasks to kind of meet the production that you need to have. And I think Rashaan Evans is the second most important player in terms of who needs to grow this season.
Brian says Razor Blade is just underrated. Rashaan Evans, I like Rashaan Evans a lot. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, Zach and I did, and Rashaan Evans is really good. He racks up a lot of tackles. He's great in the run game of recognizing where the run's going to go, but he also struggles with missed tackles because sometimes Razor Blade is so out of control, going too fast downhill or going too aggressive at his target and misses. I think his missed tackle rate is over 10% for his career. Both seasons were over 10%.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about missed tackle rate. That's like a Pro Football Focus type of stat. But I do know that what they've told me is that 10% is the cutoff. If you're under 10%, you're okay. If you're over 10%, that's an issue. So Rashaan Evans has to shore up on that.
Another thing is the game's going to slow down for him in his third season. He had his first full season with major playing time last year. So I would expect the game to slow down for him a little bit to kind of get adjusted and acclimated to what's the NFL speed, where to be, his angles and everything. I expect a bigger year out of Rashaan Evans. I think this will be his best year yet.
All right, A to Z Sports, Jack Gentry is in for Zach. Buck is on vacation for one more day. So Jack getting the spot duty in here, host of the Tighten Up podcast. He's got Rashaan Evans and Nate Davis. He's got a third Titan who needs to step up in 2020 that we'll get to in a second. And then we'll get your opinion on which of these three players needs to have the biggest season of these guys. But first, let me tell you about Renters Warehouse. Nashville's professional landlords, renterswarehouse.com. is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for, because there's so many different ways. You can use renterswarehouse.com to your benefit. If you own Airbnbs and you're not getting any of those weekend travelers coming through and you're losing money, rent that property out for 4 or 5 months until everything gets back to normal and there's no binding contracts with Renters Warehouse. Also, if you own your home and that mortgage is really just kicking your ass, honestly, because you've lost some income, that's okay. Don't freak out and sell your house. You can rent out a cheaper house, then turn around and rent your house out to somebody else. And now you're actually coming in the positive right there. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go.
Guys, if you're a Titans fan, you're going to like the Tighten Up podcast with myself and Austin Huff. We try to have fun. We try to be informative. We try to entertain. Subscribe to the A to Z Podcast Network on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. We've had guests such as Jim Wyatt, Mickey Ryan, Brad Hopkins, and our favorite, Donnie Nicky. So next time, we had an episode drop on Wednesday, so go check that out, Tighten Up Podcast.
Yes, Tighten Up Podcast, A to Z Sports here live, wherever you get that, your podcast, A to Z Sports Podcast Network. You guys made several jokes about Marcus Mariota getting engaged that I thought was just absolutely hilarious this week. So, Jack, you've said Nate Davis and Rashaan Evans. Who is your third Titan to step up in 2020?
The third Titan that I'm choosing stepped up last year. He did, but this year is much different. He's being thrown into the fire. Adoree Jackson needs to have a big year for the Titans. Now, Logan Ryan took, I believe he's in the top 6 or 7 in defensive snap count totals last year. So that's a lot of snaps to make up for now. And Adoree Jackson, I think, in a way, Malcolm Butler's injury kind of benefited him last year in the fact that he got some experience on that second corner spot. Well, this year it's his for the whole season. So he's got to be there. He's got to step up. He's been a good tackler. His ball skills we know are there. This is just a massive season for Adoree Jackson. If Adoree Jackson has a great year, I don't see any reason why the Titans can't win 10 games.
Interesting. Because there's no Logan Ryan, and Malcolm Butler is in a year where his out for Malcolm Butler's contract happens after this season. So if Adoree Jackson can come in and really prove himself as a number one corner, and I think it was CBS Sports put out their top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL. Adoree Jackson was right there at number 10. And that happened this past week. So if Adoree can take that next step, then is Malcolm Butler salvageable for cap reasons? Then you have Christian Fulton, who kind of replaces that production, and you start to kind of build and flip your cornerbacks, because Adoree is in the last year of his rookie deal. They've already got the 5th-year option for him next year, so he's going to be making a lot of money in 21. So I think Adoree Jackson absolutely has to have a big year, especially too, Jack, because is he going to be playing nickel? Like, what's Adoree Jackson's role going to be? Because to me, it sounds like from every time Mike Vrabel has talked about the nickel position or has been asked about the nickel position, he's always said it's going to be a matchup and how the nickel position has gotten more vertical than it has been in the past. And the real one vertical corner the Titans have that has the speed to go vertical is Adoree'. So I think 25 is going to have a lot on his shoulders of playing all over the field this season.
Oh, big time. And if you're in Mike Vrabel's defense, you have to be a versatile player. You just do. And one player you left off that list is Jonathan Joseph. I think Jonathan Joseph is an underrated signing, a veteran cornerback who's been in Vrabel's system in Houston. I think a veteran presence like that could help Adoree' move along as well. The idea that they took his fifth-year option was big. I think you had to do that. If Adoree' plays well this season, he's going to get paid and going to get paid a ton.
Yeah, which I mean, the Titans, it's a good thing because the Titans have drafted pretty well in the first round. If you think about Jack Conklin got paid. Well, then you've got Lewan who got paid. You've got Rashaan Evans who's looking good. He's on your list. And even though Corey Davis is not trending that way, Dory Jackson is. And if you get 50% on your 2 first-round draft picks from 2017, that's pretty good. Brian mentions Amani Hooker could be playing a lot of nickel unless he's has a bad speed mismatch. I agree with that.
I like that.
Tress says if Adoree' plays nickel, it makes him think that he won't be back because that increases his value and versatility. I mean, maybe, but if Adoree' Jackson plays well at nickel, he's going to be expensive no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 2 years away. And I think Adoree' Jackson, because what we've seen John Robinson do is re-up these guys before that fifth-year option kicks in sometimes. And I think Adoree' Jackson will be a candidate for that a year from now, where the season, the 2 guys we're talking about right now for that kick up and that salary increase are Jayon Brown and Jonnu Smith. Like, which one of those 2 gets a big contract this season before the year? Because those guys are going into the last year of their deals.
Oh, yeah. The Titans are going to have a lot of people to pay here coming up. You have Derrick Henry who needs a new contract as well. And that may have to get done this season. We'll see how the money looks after the $19 million or so they have left, whether or not they spend that on Clowney or whoever. I would like them to do that. But, they have a lot of mouths to feed in terms of new contracts. So it's going to be interesting. I trust John Robinson. John Robinson's proven time and time again he knows what to do with these guys. He knows when to get rid of them, who to bring in. So I'm glad that Titans fans have a GM that they can trust to make these very difficult decisions.
All right, so let's put Jack's 3 guys down on paper. He's got Nate Davis, Rashaan Evans, and Adoree' Jackson. Out of those 3 guys that Jack thinks needs to step up in 2020, who needs to have the biggest season? Who needs to have the biggest season for the Titans out of those 3 guys? Nate Davis, Adoree' Jackson, or is it Rashaan Evans? But first, let me tell you guys about Calvin and Settle, calvinandsettle.com. If you're looking to get new floors, because maybe you need some new floors, you've been at home staring at them for 4 months now, calvinandsettle.com is where to go. Their phone number is right there on the screen as well. Hardwood floors and finishing. They take the right CDC precautions. They also have a great showroom that you can go to, or they can handle the entire thing virtually until they come install. And their installment process is very efficient. It's quick. They're not going to spend a full week in your home. They're going to be able to get in and get out and do a great job. calvinandsettle.com is where to find them out.
All right, guys. So the most important Titan we have, right, is I think it has to be Nate Davis. I think it has to be. Because
out of these 3 guys, you're saying Nate Davis?
Out of Nate Davis, Rashaan Evans, Adoree' Jackson, Nate Davis is by far the most important player of those 3 to develop. And look, he hasn't even had a full season under his belt. He has to grow up very quickly. The best player on your team is Derrick Henry. He runs up the middle. He's not an out. We talked about it. He doesn't run outside the tackle box. Rarely does he do that.
Well, the outside zone play is their best play. Like, they could run the outside zone 10 times, 12 times a game, and they're going to get a lot of yards off of it. And typically they run it to the left, but Nate Davis is very important.
Yeah, and look, Derrick Henry, I mean, he's north and south most of the time, unless they're playing the Jaguars, where you can run him anywhere, and he's going to stiff arm everyone into the ground. But no, Nate Davis has to be the most important player. You had Jack Conklin last year. That was a cornerstone of the offense. A very important position are the tackles, right? The left tackle, Taylor Lewan, Right tackle was Jack Conklin. Well, you lose Jack Conklin. Dennis Kelly's good, yes. But like you said earlier, he's just a stopgap. They're going to work Isaiah Wilson in this year. Isaiah Wilson's going to have his first year of NFL experience this year, and that's going to be tough. There's going to be growing pains there, just like there were with Nate Davis last year. So Nate Davis can't afford to have a slow start to this season. He's got to be on it from the first snap to the last snap. He's very, very vital for this team to get where they want to be.
All right, so out of these three guys, who is most important to have the biggest season? Nate Davis, Rashaan Evans, or Adoree Jackson? Let's go to comments. Texas Sports on Periscope says Rashaan Evans. Rob says Rashaan Evans. Tyler says, and David says Evans. There's the first four answers I've seen. They're all Rashaan Evans. Darius agrees with you, Jack. He says Nate Davis because the offense runs through Derrick Henry. Ethan Ramsey brings up a good point. Remember the days when the Titans had $30+ million cap room, but they sucked back then? So I'll take the trade-off with this. Ramon says Davis needs to have a huge step up in his game this year. Damon says need Adoree Jackson to lock down that wide receiver one. Jared says Davis and not Corey. He says a solid O-line is a recipe for success. Kenneth says if Evans has a big year, that could potentially make it easier for Adoree Jackson. Fair point. Brian brings up Dane Cruikshank. Dane Cruikshank is a talented special teams player, but not necessarily getting a lot of defensive snaps. Then you've got Dom saying Adoree needs sticky coverage on the back end to aid the pass rush. Danny agrees with Jack, going with Nate Davis. Man, honestly, here, our guy Tress, I'm trying to read comments. He keeps scrolling on me. Tress says it's got to be Nate Davis. That right side of the O-line is a concern.
And Austin, the most underappreciated unit in football is a solid O-line. You don't realize how much you need a solid O-line until you have a terrible offensive line. And I don't think that's a position the Titans will be in, but I'm just saying maybe we're taking a solid offensive line for granted a little bit. And that's why Nate Davis and that really young right side of the offensive line has to be there this season.
Tress says guys like Rashaan and Adoree have shown they've done it. They just need to take the next step. Exactly. And so for the answering this question, like Nate Davis is important, yeah, but he's a part of a unit, and I trust the unit overall. I trust Dennis Kelly because Dennis Kelly can help Nate Davis with the mental part of it as he's trying to get going in year two. Ben Jones, to Nate Davis's left, is obviously a really cerebral player and a great leader there. Nate Davis needs to have a big year. Don't get me wrong. I agree with all three of the guys on your list. Rashaan Evans, I think something that we didn't really talk about when we were discussing Rashaan Evans singularly is the impact of missing Wesley Woodyard, of not having Wesley Woodyard in the room to help out Rashaan Evans, because Wesley Woodyard was a big key for that unit, even though he wasn't playing a ton of defensive snaps. So Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown will both have to fill that void there too. But for me, the answer is Adoree Jackson, because I've always said the four most important positions in the game of football are quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher, and cornerback. If it's all about protecting the quarterback and getting after the quarterback and guarding. And Adoree Jackson is the best corner the Titans have. And they lost Logan Ryan. And he was the smartest corner the Titans had and made everybody's job easier. Logan did. Now without Logan, Adoree's going to have a full plate and a heavy workload. And Adoree Jackson is really, really good 95% of the time. But we've also seen what happens when he tries to guard T.Y. Hilton. We've seen what happens when Adoree Jackson loses focus. And Mike Vrabel specifically talked about Adoree Jackson's focus. And when he loses focus, it ends up being 75 yards and 4 touchdowns for the other team. And so I think the most important guy to take the next step is Adoree Jackson because and Jordan says, I'll take 95% of the time. But like Nate Davis can be good 95% of the time. And the 5% that Nate Davis is not very good, it might be okay. Like Derrick Henry still might gain 5 yards. Right? But if Adoree Jackson is not good 5% of the time, that 5% is amplified because it's 7 points behind him. So I think the most important guy to have a big year is Adoree Jackson for so many reasons, including contractually, because of how the salary cap is going to look moving forward down the road.
Look, I get that. I completely get that argument. And another thing is, with Malcolm Butler's season-ending injury last year, we don't know exactly what to expect from Malcolm Butler this year. But The reason why I say Nate Davis over Adoree Jackson is because the Titans' safeties are so good. They are white out. They can erase any mistake the corners may make. Now, not every mistake, but they can step up and help out a little bit. So that. And Nate Davis's help is going to be a rookie right tackle or Dennis Kelly. I like Dennis Kelly, but you could have better helpers. So that's why I think Nate Davis is the most important because of the help that he needs. But
Kevin Byard's also going to have to focus on Christian Fulton. If to start the season, because there's been no OTAs, no mini camps, no nothing right now. I haven't even seen Christian Fulton do anything. And so Kevin Byard, if Christian Fulton's on the field, and by how we're talking about Adoree Jackson, Adoree's probably going to be in the slot a lot of the time, and Malcolm Butler and Fulton will be on the outside as of right now. Kevin Byard's rotating towards Fulton's side. So the help is more towards the rookie who hasn't had an off season, where I think Kevin Byard is a great eraser for the defense, and Kenny Vaccaro is so under talked about too in his ability. But they need Adoree Jackson to give him the lockdown sign. All right, Adoree, that's the sign for lockdown, meaning I'm not going to help you, Adoree, because you should be able to get it by now. It's on Adoree to take that next step because he's a first-round pick going into year 4. He's played really well last year, had some injuries, but overcame them. It's his time to take the next step in year 4 and prove that he's a top 10 corner.
And another thing that really helps out is that DeAndre Hopkins is no longer in the division. Thank you, Bill O'Brien. Thank you for that.
Yes, A to Z Sports here live on this Friday. Jack Gentry of the Tighten Up Podcast in for Zach this morning. If you have not listened to the Tighten Up Podcast, and I know you're a Titans fan if you're watching the show, do it. Listen to the Tighten Up Podcast every Wednesday morning on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network with Jack and our guy Austin Huff as well. So check them out for sure. So, Jack, we've got a discussion about A.J. Brown in year 2. Sophomore season for A.J. Brown. Jack, you're an Ole Miss guy.
Let's talk about it.
You do have that in common with Zach, and I believe you were at Ole Miss during A.J. Brown's career. Mm-hmm. So I want you to tell me why A.J. Brown will not have a sophomore slump in 2020. But first, let me tell you guys about the Tucker Agency, tuckertn.com. That is their website, or you can go email Will Tucker at will@tuckertn.com. If everybody's got insurance, right? You got to have car insurance. You should have life insurance, rental insurance, home insurance, whatever it might be. Everybody needs to save money right now. The Tucker Agency can help you do that directly. They save their average new customer, an average of 20% on their personal insurance. Just go to tuckertn.com or email will@tuckertn.com, and they will help you out, save some hard-earned cash during these crazy times. will@tuckertn.com.
A.J. Brown's rookie deal will also help save some cash. Maybe not as much as Tucker Agency, but still.
That's right.
Look, A.J. Brown is not having a sophomore slump. I'm putting my foot down to this topic because it's his second year in the offense. There were no really fluke plays. There were big plays from A.J. last year, but he could never really string together 4 straight consecutive really strong games. Now, maybe that had to do with quarterback inconsistency. He had Mariota to start with. Now he has Tannehill. He's got a full season of Tannehill. Hopefully he has a full season of Tannehill. So I just don't – and Derrick Henry had an uptick of 91 touches from 2018 to 2019. They can't afford to have Derrick Henry have 320 touches again. That's so much. That's so much to take on as a running back. And I think that's why they brought Darrynton Evans in. But still, less touches for Henry, a second year in Arthur Smith's system, which looked strong towards the end of last year. I think that combination will produce another 1,000-yard season.
So you think another 1,000 yards? Easy?
I'm thinking another 1,000. Nothing's easy in terms of 1,000-yard receivers for the Titans. Okay.
Well, no, like you think he is going to get 1,000 yards. Like you're predicting that. You're throwing it out there. June 26th. A.J. Brown is a lot to get it. Is a lot for 1,000 yards.
A.J. 1K. He will get 1,000 yards again. Now, another thing is you don't know whether Jonnu Smith will have that 500-yard season. You don't know what Corey Davis is going to do. Although I think by now we know what Corey Davis is going to do. So I think A.J. Brown will have another 1,000-yard season. I do. Mark me down.
Shrike says Austin's getting ideas for bets in August. Yeah, Jack, you weren't around last August. Maybe you can get in on this too. Me and Zach always make yearly bets for the Titans, and it usually ends up in one of us having to do something stupid, like me having to paint my face for an entire week, like a Titans fan. So AJ Brown, year 2 will be a lot harder on AJ Brown than year 1 was, because now everybody knows. I got to find the comment, because S. Wood says AJ Brown will be covered by cornerback ones this year, has to continue to get better getting off the line. And S. Wood's right. And I remember talking about this a month or so ago, that whenever AJ Brown played like a top tier cornerback, like the Saints, with Lattimore, the Ravens in the playoffs, or the Patriots in the playoffs with Stephon Gilmore, AJ Brown really didn't show up that much. AJ Brown did get shut down in a lot of games. The Jacksonville game early on, before they tanked the season, in week 3, AJ Brown could not get off of AJ Boye. And I think AJ Brown has to be able to learn how to get off the line of scrimmage, how to beat press coverage, because the first time we really saw AJ Brown just explode with a big play after the catch was against the Falcons. And the Falcons had the softest coverage of anybody in the NFL, and they just gave him like 10 yards to run an in-cutting route with all the cushion in the world and take it 60 yards for a touchdown. So I think he's got to be more consistent. And I truly believe, as Arthur Smith said on the Zoom call a few weeks ago, that he said that their offense was an anomaly statistically a lot, because they had so many big plays that went for touchdowns. And A.J. Brown was a heavy part of that. And I just don't think that's easy to replicate. Like A.J. Brown having over 20 yards a catch, that's not going to happen next year. Well, it's going to be closer to like 15 yards a catch, which is still really high, but that's a big step down. 5 yards a catch is a huge drop off, because 20 yards is just not. You can't replicate that.
No, you can't, but it's also not a fluke in a way, because he is a big play receiver, so he doesn't have to win every single battle against the number 1 corner. You don't have to do that. If he beats him 4 times a game, has 20 yards a catch like last year, maybe he does it 5 times a game, it's 15. Still, very productive day for AJ. You don't have to win every battle if you're a big play wide receiver. He's strong enough, he's quick enough, he's a solid enough route runner, and he has the IQ across the middle that you need to have to be really a complete wide receiver. He's leaps and bounds ahead of where he should have been his rookie year.
Oh, I think A.J. Brown's best thing is his work ethic and his drive. Like I remember the first time A.J. Brown was at rookie minicamp with the Titans, everybody wanted to talk to him, right? Because Jeffrey Simmons was rehabbing. We couldn't talk to Jeffrey Simmons. So A.J. Brown was basically getting all the first-round pick attention. And as a wide receiver, sexy position, all this kind of stuff. And we had to wait for like 20 minutes after practice ends for him to talk to A.J. Brown, because he was on the jugs machine the whole time, catching all these passes. And he said this summer that he's catching 1,000 passes a day, whether it's footballs, tennis balls, anything. A.J. Brown catching 1,000 balls a day. His work ethic, I'm not worried about. I just think it's about defenses and defensive coordinators understanding what to take away with A.J. Brown and how to take it away. Because AJ played the X position at wide receiver. That means he lines up on the line of scrimmage and he does not motion. So that makes it easier for the cornerback to have press coverage on him, and it makes it more difficult for him to get off the line of scrimmage. They use Corey Davis as the Z and motion him around, because they can use Corey Davis in many different ways. It dictates coverage and all that kind of stuff. But AJ Brown will have the harder job in year 2 than Corey Davis. But A.J. Brown was more productive, so that's fine. But I don't expect A.J. Brown, I think his 20 yards per catch will go down to like 15. It's going to be so much harder.
That's okay. That's okay. And he's a multifaceted receiver. So if you take something away, say you take a deep ball away, say you take his deep routes away, and you want to maybe press him at the line of scrimmage, he can beat you inside. He's quick enough to beat you inside, and he's strong enough to win the battle at the line of scrimmage to get the edge for the route. He's more than just a big play receiver. He is. All I know that's what the Titans saw a lot last year. And in Arthur Smith's schemes, Arthur Smith is his biggest ally. His play design and everything, he can cover. He can use Jonnu Smith as a distraction, Corey Davis as a distraction. I just think that we should expect more of the same from last year out of A.J. Brown, if not more.
All right, A to Z Sports. Let's ask this question, or let's just make this statement: true or false? AJ Brown will have a sophomore slump in 2020. True or false? AJ Brown will have a sophomore slump in 2020. Jack, I'm guessing you're a false in this.
You would guess correctly. I just don't see reasons behind supporting that he will. I understand. Ooh, the sophomore slump. It's very trendy in the NFL. Okay, big deal. That's what teams say after, or that's what people say after a player has a big rookie season. But I don't think it rings true in this case. You have to factor in a lot of different things with AJ Brown. It's a run-first offense. It is, and it always will be with Derrick Henry. But to run him into the ground like they almost did last year, what they did towards the end of the season, can't happen in the first 10 weeks of the season. It can't. Maybe it works 5 or 6 weeks towards the end of the season, but you can't have a full season of Derrick Henry taking 25 carries a game. That's unacceptable. And I don't know. I don't think fans would appreciate that. I don't think Derrick Henry on a franchise tag would appreciate that.
All right, Ethan Ramsey says, "Man, these Ole Miss alums love to conduct the AJ Brown."
Okay, Ethan Ramsey. Well, I mean, it's AJ Brown. There's reasons that people are on the AJ Brown hype train. There just are. And if you're a 1,000-yard receiver in your rookie year and you got completely snubbed for rookie of the year, I think there's reasons. There's definite reasons to make a case
Who is
that AJ Brown could do it again. I don't see
who is the last Titans rookie of the year?
I don't know, Vince Young maybe.
Yes, and what happened in Vince Young's second year?
We're not comparing AJ Brown to Vince Young. I'm not going to stand by and allow that to happen. That's not fair.
It's not, because one guy has work ethic and the other guy doesn't.
Yes, and one guy spends $10,000 at Cheesecake Factory, and the other guy would never do that. But no,
I don't know.
AJ Brown. Look, I get it. Sophomore slump. That's a fun topic to talk about. It'll get clicks. It'll get people to come in here and that's not happening. Not with Arthur Smith's offense. Not in the second year of a scheme. If he can produce 1,000 yards in his rookie season, in Arthur Smith's first season as a play caller, why can't he replicate that? I just don't, especially with more touches coming his way now that Derrick Henry will have a lighter workload. Most think that, at least.
All right. So true or false? AJ Brown will have a sophomore slump. G-Man says Jack doesn't yell, but he's sounding a lot like Zach because of the Ole Miss train. Let's see. Nick says, I love AJ, but Jacobs should have won Rookie of the Year. I think Kyler Murray should not have won Rookie of the Year.
That's my whole point. Is Kyler Murray did not deserve that over either of those two guys.
Exactly. All right. More of your true and false. S. Wood says true, but he loves AJ Brown, but true that he will have a sophomore slump. Tress says false, like 2% chance that AJ Brown has a sophomore slump. Dom just goes the big F, which I'm guessing is a false. Greg says false. Grant says false right there. Yeah. Ramon with a false. Mookie says, based on history, true.
Throw the history books out of the window. Throw the history books out of the window.
Why?
Because AJ Brown's special. He's not like all the other receivers. He's a completely different player than any wide receiver the Titans have had in the last decade. Throw the history books out.
You can go further than a decade.
Yeah, 2 decades.
John Michael Presley says false. DeMaurice is true. Let's see. Big false from our guy. Shrike says false. He will get more snaps as a second wide receiver in year 2 to make up for the lower yards per catch rate. I want to get to another comment. Okay, Bobby, because Bobby is the comment who caught my eye. He says maybe he'll have a big play slump, but overall, I think his catches go up and probably his yards. I'm already on record saying that AJ Brown will have more catches next year and more yards next year than he did a year ago. But I agree with Bobby. I am more towards the 91-yard touchdown against the Raiders. That's probably not going to happen. Him just catching a 10-yard dig against the Jags and Texans and taking it 65 yards, those probably aren't going to happen. The Saints game where he ran a reverse 49 yards for a touchdown, that's probably not going to happen. I think A.J. Brown is going to have to really develop and become more – he's going to be forced to become a possession wide receiver. I know he's really hard to tackle, and he's great after the catch, but they are going to be able – to lock him down and make sure they just don't let him run like he did last year. So I think his stats will go up, but his efficiency will go down.
So you're just going to say he's never again in his career going to have another big play touchdown? I don't understand. There's reasons why he's rattling these big plays off. I mean, the 91 yards, okay, that's probably not going to happen again. But I mean, he can score once you cross that midfield marker. He will be able to score from anywhere on the field. He just will. He's explosive. He's quick. He's strong. He's a precise route runner. His IQ, like I mentioned earlier, is through the roof. There's so many reasons to believe that he will be able to continue this. There's very little evidence that there will be a sophomore slump here.
I think Tannehill will also be able to look around to other guys too. I think Tannehill, because like we think about this, and Jack and you and I have talked about this off air before, is Corey Davis was not used very much by Tannehill because the entire offseason, Mariota was working right with Corey Davis and Tannehill was working with A.J. Brown the entire offseason. So when they're both in there, that's where the rapport was. Tannehill is now going to have that rapport with A.J. Brown, but he's been working all offseason with Jonnu Smith down in Florida. He's going to have a better rapport with Adam Humphries. He's going to have a better rapport. Anthony Ferkser had 2 touchdowns in the playoffs. I think Ferkser's a sneaky little guy here who can step in and take some production away. I love A.J. Brown. He is the best wide receiver the Titans have had since Derek Mason and Drew Bennett. It's that, like, you really have to go that far back. And I think he has a higher ceiling than both those guys. And Derek Mason is the leading receiver for 2 franchises in the NFL. So that's a pretty high ceiling there. But I trend towards A.J. Brown will have a slump of a year. Not like a completely drop off and have like 600 yards, but it'll just be a lot harder on A.J. Brown this season.
If A.J. Brown plays 16 games, he's going for 1,000 yards. He's going. I mark me down. It's just, that hamstring was a little dicey towards the end of the year, but I think he'll be okay. There's just in Arthur Smith's second year there's so many reasons to be optimistic about his production in his second season as a Titan.
All right, A to Z Sports here live on a Friday. Jack in for Zach. Jack, you did something yesterday that I want to hear you talk about. Jack is the first member of the A to Z Sports team to get his coronavirus test done. He took a swab to the brain, and Jack will discuss what that was like. But first, let me tell you guys what Jack and Austin Huff are doing. They've got the A to Z Sports Tighten Up podcast, but they also, Jack, you guys have Tighten Up Trivia that is coming out on Monday. So if you listen to the Tighten Up podcast and you know Huff and Jack, you know how funny these two guys are. Now they're hosting Tighten Up Trivia that is coming to your social media starting on Monday. It's a 16 player tournament. You've got the first round done, but episodes starting to come out Monday. You're excited about this.
I'm so pumped. These episodes, they're awesome. Look, it's a 16-man bracket. Most of these guys are pretty prominent on Titan Twitter. We have Chili Pepper. Of course, how could we not have Chili Pepper in this? You have Fast Nasty. You have Sal from Jersey. All these big guys on we have the Kurdish Titans leader, Ballin. It's just so many of these big Titans fans who know so much. It's fun watching them play trivia because they know most of them. They know most every answer, but just watching them think through it. Sometimes it takes a second, sometimes it takes a little longer. But there are some crazy close games, some heartbreakers. I can't wait for you guys to see it on Monday at 1.
Yeah, so the Tighten Up Trivia coming every weekday minus Fridays for the next few weeks at 1 o'clock. It's Nashville time. Juan says, how about Marcus Mariota finally taking a risk and getting engaged?
Austin Huff had a similar take. He said, right when he leaves the Titans, he finally gets a ring, right? So
my take on Mariota getting engaged, and obviously happy for Marcus Mariota. I wish him well. But Marcus Mariota, this was discussed, or it was the headline was Marcus Mariota gets engaged to college sweetheart. Marcus Mariota has been out of college for 5 years, and they were dating in college. I don't know why it took Marcus Mariota more than 5 years of making NFL second overall pick money, and why it took him so long to get engaged. But sometimes it took him that long to throw the damn ball and not take a sack. So it makes sense to me.
Man, that's my boy Marcus. I love Marcus. Look,
I know, but he's the ultimate hesitator.
You got to be sure.
It took him so long.
You got to be sure. Just like when he's going through his progressions, he's got to be sure that man's going to be there.
Yeah. All right, so Jack, Aswood says, man is indecisive. Trez says Marcus was hurt all the time. He wasn't ready to get hurt again.
That's good. That's good.
There's so many. All right. So Jack, you got your coronavirus test done the other day.
Yep.
What was that like?
Well, I went in yesterday.
Yesterday.
I'm asymptomatic, and I just wanted to be sure.
So you're not showing any symptoms?
No symptoms. Just this was.
But you don't have any results yet.
No results. It'll come in either today or tomorrow. I went ahead and did it because my roommate hit the disease lottery. Okay, there was a 6% chance of this happening, and he got both strep throat and corona. So I have to, and I'm living in this house. I'm in like a bomb shelter of a room here. So I'm trying to protect myself. Wanted to make sure. Went in yesterday. What they do, everyone's seen the videos. It's a massive Q-tip. They shove all the way up your face and into your brain and tickle it for about 3 seconds. And I mean, it's on an uncomfortable scale, it's definitely like an 8.5 out of 10.
What would be a 10 out of 10?
Oh man. Oh, I have no idea. A 10 out of 10 would be in a car ride across country with no AC, windows don't work. That would be uncomfortable. 10 out of 10. But no.
That's like hours. You're talking about 3 seconds.
Yeah. No. But no. So the Q-tip up the brain, I thought it would be much worse. All that really happened was I cried out of one eye for about 5 seconds because when something that's far in your nose, it will elicit tears, and that ended up what happening.
So what did, because G-Man brings up, it's gross, but I'm curious too. Any boogers? Like what?
I mean, if you go that
what does it look like?
Nasal passage, there's
no,
probably
it's not.
Be a booger or two.
But did you see what it looked like when it was pulled out?
Oh no, I didn't want to see anything. No, look, that's for the doctors to look at. It's not for me. I just went in, got it done. Now we're waiting. Now we're hoping. I'm going to be sweating these next 24 hours. I don't think I have it, but just in case.
How long did it take?
Waiting took the longest. Took like an hour to get in. Once you're in there, it takes about 10 minutes. You're out. Blow before you go. Yeah, you're right.
So are you afraid of needles? Like, do you give blood okay? Like, does that freak you out?
No, I just like uncomfortably laugh when I'm doing it. You know, that nervous laugh. I like cackle almost, where you just look away and just start laughing because you're just ready for him to stick a needle in you. But there are definitely worse Q-tip tests out there. Greg German makes a good point.
Probably so. All right. A to Z Sports. Let's wrap this show up here with Jack Gentry on a Friday and send you guys the weekend. Also, send me to vacation. Very excited about that. But first, ain't that good news? Let's get your good news in, and we'll talk about some great news with the NFL. Jack's got some great news as well. But first, let me tell you about Mandu, the pulse of fitness. This was some great news and really cool news. Yesterday, we were live at Mandu in Green Hills, and Adam, who is Titan Man, who dresses up full Titan Man and goes to all the games, he is a Mandu guy. He's all about Mandu. And Adam told us he's lost 95 pounds with Mandu. He was 350 pounds, and now he's 255 pounds, which is a freaking amazing story. And Mandu is how he helped get all that down. It's electronic muscle stimulation. It's 15-minute workouts. You do it once or twice a week. You feel great. You save time where you don't have to go in the gym for a dozen hours a week to get fit. Mandu.com. They also show you how to achieve your fitness goals like Adam, like me. I've lost over 22 pounds of fat in the last year. Adam's lost 95, which is absolutely insane and impressive. It is amazing for Adam. But Mandu.com, your first workout is absolutely free. Mandu.com.
Let's get to some good news. See you in the week. Let's end the weekend on the right note. Let's get to some good news, Austin.
All right, Jack, what is your good news this week?
My good news is towards the MLB. Not only is the season returning here in July 1st when they're starting spring training, July 23rd, 24 is tentatively where they have scheduled to begin regular season play in a 60-game season. But my good news is the rule changes. There are 2 rule changes. Baseball purists, you suck. Doesn't matter. The 2 rule changes they had were awesome, okay? The first of which being the National League finally gets a DH. It's about damn time. No one likes pitchers hitting. No one likes that. It's the most unentertaining out in baseball. It really is. You know what's happening. Whether you have to bunt. We saw Scherzer try and lay down a bunt last year, came up, hit him in the face in batting practice. It's just stupid and an unnecessary risk. So I'm really happy that there's now a DH in the National League.
Real quick, because Strike says the DH sucks. I'm not a baseball guy. I never really have been. I loved Griffey, but ever since Griffey retired, I haven't really gotten back into baseball. But Tress says, yes, love the DH. Give me Riley and Ozuna because I know Tress is a Braves fan.
And that's my team. That's my team.
So you're a Braves fan too.
Of course. And Austin Riley, it's perfect. It works out perfectly for the Braves because you have Johan Camargo and Austin Riley. Neither are good fielders. Both bring a solid bat though. So it's going to be interesting to see how I think the more creative the manager, the better off your team is with a DH in the National League.
But without a DH, you have to be creative too, right? Because you have to the strategy is that much more complicated, which separates the good managers from the great managers, because you have to figure out, okay, what inning are we in? How many pitches is my pitcher thrown? Where are we at in the lineup? Should we pinch hit him? Because then we're going to make a pitching change. And like the strategy is that much more complicated, which it's the nuance of baseball. So that's where I like the difference of the two leagues of having one with DH and one not. But I get for what's happening right now. I just fear that they've got the DH in both leagues now, and that's just how it's going to be.
That's how it should be. In the NBA, you don't see a 30-second shot clock in the Eastern Conference and a 24 in the Western. Let's have everything uniform. Let's have everything the same, especially if it adds an entertainment value to the sport, which baseball desperately needs right now. So,
yeah. So what was the next one? I was reading some comments because we got people on both sides of this, which is like the DH conversation is an oldie but goodie.
Yeah, the next one will be the extra inning rule. In the 10th inning of games that are tied heading into the 10th, teams will start with a runner on second base, right? So it's a rule that is adopted in softball, in minor league baseball. Now it finally makes its way up to the majors. And when you're playing 60 games in 66 days, you don't want to blow your entire bullpen on an 18-inning game. You don't. That's not a recipe for future success, and it's where you don't really have a lot of time off this season. So in an interesting stat I heard was that in minor leagues, 73% of the games, which start with a runner on second in the extra innings, end in that 10th inning. So you're not going much further past the 10th inning with this system. Yeah. And I think it adds excitement. It adds more anxiety for fans and pitchers. I just think it's overall better for the game.
See, G-Man just says, no, boo this man.
Come on.
So no, I'm on board with this one because of it's a tight schedule. Like they only have 6 off days. And like you said, they're trying to squeeze as many games in there as they can. Just save the pitching arms. There's no reason to go to 15 innings.
Come in the 14th inning. No one wants to see that. Our position player come in and pitch. It's gonna be a show.
Oh, if there's 162 games, you had to spice it up. Yeah, give me the right fielder throwing an inning. Like, that's fine. I'm all about that.
But not in 60.
But not for this.
No.
But not for this. I'm with you on that. All right, my good news. Let's get to some of y'all's other good news. There's a lot of comments on baseball. These are the most baseball comments I think we've had in a year and a half. Let's see. David says, good news. He's accepted a position as a missions pastor here in the spring. Congrats to you there, David. Kenneth says, good news. Moving to Fort Walton this weekend. That's great. Greg says, good news. Final interview with the VP of sales today. Ready to get back to work. Fingers crossed.
Let's get it, Greg.
Ronnie says, need to get a Mandu down there in Georgia, man. Yeah, you can. If you want to, you can open up your own and make your own business with that because they're taking franchise options as well. Tress says, good news. Local movie theaters opening up, showing the classics that he's missed so much. So what all is your good news? My good news is 440 is done. 440 is done. It's over. The construction that has been going on for a year and a half is done. And they will have a ribbon cutting ceremony on July 2nd next week. And they're removing all the cones. They're removing all the construction equipment, all of the construction signs. It's hugely wide open. And Jack, I don't know exactly where you live. I think you live out kind of in the Nations area, if I'm right. You probably use 440 a decent amount. I live right off of 440. 440 is basically an extension of my driveway. That the 440 exit goes directly to my house. And so I drive on 440 no less than twice a day. And so for the last year and a half, I've had to deal with weird traffic patterns, with dangerous entry and exit ramps, with crazy machinery, crushing concrete, and awful traffic. I got stuck because on 440 for over an hour one morning where we had to cancel the show because there was a pileup on 440. And because the two lanes were so tight, nobody could move. So I am so happy that 440 is done and it looks beautiful. Let's go 75 miles an hour down that bitch because it's got the room to do it. Let's amp up that speed limit. I don't want to see 55. Let's put it at 70.
When was there not a pile up on 440? I think that's a better question.
But there was no shoulders. That's the crazy thing. And I also, because of the frequency that I drive 440, potholes will not make me have to spend $700 on my car ever again. Because I've had to spend $700 because my wheel axles got too many potholes on 440, and I had to basically save my car from falling apart. So I am, G-Man says, Autobahn Nashville. Give me that high speed limit. I'm all about it.
Yeah, no. So you're going speed racing this weekend is what you're saying.
Yeah, Ethan Ramsey says Austin's going to get his second speeding ticket on 440 with all the construction gone. I did get a speeding ticket right as construction started because I did not realize that I had entered the construction zone yet. But
you're not a Nashvilleian unless you have a speeding ticket on 440.
Do you have one?
That's a rule. Of course I have one. I have a speeding ticket on most roads anyways. But no, I have one on
How many speeding tickets do you have?
Oh my gosh. I've been to driving school probably 2 or 3, probably six tickets.
You've only been driving like 8 years.
So, I mean, that's enough time. That's enough time.
So you almost average one speeding ticket a year.
Yeah, just about. I mean, and not having to make the trip from Oxford to Nashville anymore will help. Will help get that down. But yeah, dude, it's tough in those streets.
Dude, you need to go to Tucker Agency so you can help lower that car insurance.
Yes, no insurance.
Yes, because of that, all those speeding tickets.
Yeah.
All right, Jack. Jack, good job. Good job. Your first fill-in show. I thought you did pretty well. Thanks for helping out today. Zach is out at his Texas family ranch. Zach and I will be off for the next 2 weeks, but don't worry. Buck will be here at 8 a.m. for the next 2 weeks for your entertainment purposes, doing prime time after his vacation. We've also got Jack and Austin Huff doing Tighten Up Trivia. That debut happens on Monday at 1 o'clock Nashville time. Grant saying, nice job, Ugly. I have a guess that you and Grant know each other very well, so that's okay. He can call you Ugly. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll appreciate you guys, and we'll see you here later on. Thanks.